Athens, Greece, March 1987. An earthquake of magnitude 6.2 shakes the Attica region at 1437. Amid the rubble of an abandoned university library, a child of only 4 years is found, clutching fragments of a millennial parchment. His first words, spoken during the rescue, chilled the blood of all those present. Philosophers Mechalai. The philosopher calls me, in perfect archaic Greek. You are about to discover the most incredible story ever documented about reincarnation. A case that challenged all experts in ancient languages across Europe and to this day, remains without scientific explanation. The child was named Nicholas Christopoulos, son of a local baker and a primary school teacher, an ordinary family with no connection to classical studies or archaeology. Before the accident, Nicholas was a normal child who could barely form complete sentences in modern Greek. But when he awoke in that Athens hospital, 3 days after the earthquake, something had completely changed. He was no longer the same child, his mother Maria recounted, tears in her eyes. He spoke words I had never heard before. He traced strange symbols in the air with his fingers, and his eyes seemed to carry the wisdom of decades. The first person to witness something truly extraordinary was Dr. Yanis Stavros, a neurologist at Evangelismos Hospital. During a routine examination, Nicholas looked directly at an Egyptian papyrus decorating the office wall and declared with the seriousness of an adult, "This man died of sorrow. He lost his library in the flames of Alexandria." Dr. Stavros was utterly stunned. The papyrus was a replica of a funerary document he himself could not fully interpret. How could a 4-year-old child know anything about the Library of Alexandria? But this was only the beginning. The days following the earthquake were an emotional whirlwind for the Christopoulos family. Nicholas had emerged from a coma with minor injuries, but his behavior was entirely different. For the first 48 hours, the child remained in absolute silence, observing everything with an unsettling intensity. It was Maria, his mother, who witnessed the first inexplicable event. At dawn on the 4th day, she heard Nicholas speaking alone in his hospital bed. But these were not childish babblings. It was a fluent conversation, as if he were speaking with someone invisible. "Didascale potiza epistrepso," the child asked into the void. "Master, when will I return?" Maria stood frozen. Her son was using the most archaic form of Greek, a variant she had only heard in documentaries about ancient Greece. Nurse Sophia Papadaki, who had worked at the hospital for 20 years, had never seen anything like it. The boy spoke like a scholar, she would recall years later. His gestures, his posture, even the way he moved his hands while speaking, resembled a philosopher delivering a lecture. But what truly alarmed everyone was when Nicholas began to draw, not with children's crayons, but with charcoal found on the floor. His drawings were not the typical scribbles of a 4-year-old, they were perfect geometric diagrams. The Pythagorean theorem, the golden spiral, symbols even the doctors did not recognize. Dr. Stavros decided to call Professor Dimitris Komnos, a specialist in classical Greek at the University of Athens. When Komnos arrived at the hospital and heard Nicholas reciting entire fragments of philosophical texts he was not supposed to have ever studied, his face turned pale. "This child is quoting Heraclitus texts that exist in only 3 manuscripts worldwide," the professor whispered, trembling, "and he recites them with the exact pronunciation of the 6th century before Christ." The transformation was undeniable, but the most unsettling revelation was yet to come. 2 weeks after the earthquake, Professor Komnos made a decision that changed everything. He wanted to test Nicholas's knowledge in a controlled environment, away from the hospital and surrounded by experts. The chosen location was the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, specifically the Room of Ancient Manuscripts, closed to the public. On the 15th of April 1987, at 10:30 in the morning, Nicholas entered the museum for the first time, holding his parents' hands. What happened in the following 40 minutes was recorded on video by the museum itself, a recording that, to this day, sends shivers down the spines of those who have seen it. Upon entering the first room, Nicholas stopped abruptly before a display case containing pottery fragments from the 5th century before Christ. His small eyes fixed on a specific piece, an ostracon with barely visible inscriptions. Without anyone asking him anything, the child pointed to the piece and declared in a firm voice, "These runes speak of war." Alcibiades was betrayed by his own generals. The scribe who carved this was weeping as he did it, for he knew democracy would die. A deathly silence filled the room. Dr. Elena Marcu, the chief curator, felt her legs tremble. That ostracon had been unearthed just 6 months earlier during a secret excavation near the agora. The inscriptions were so faint that even the most experienced specialists needed magnifying glasses and hours of study to decipher them. How can a 4-year-old child know about Alcibiades? Dr. Marcu whispered to Professor Komnos. This fragment isn't even officially catalogued. Only 3 people in Greece know its contents. But Nicholas was not done. He walked to another display case and, without hesitation, pointed to a partially destroyed papyrus. "My master wrote this," he said naturally. "It speaks of the soul and its transmutations, but the most important part is missing. It is buried beneath the temple." Professor Komnos's eyes filled with tears. He had just witnessed something that defied all laws of logic, but this was only the beginning of a journey that would change their lives forever. In the months that followed, the Christopoulos family's life was completely transformed. Nicholas developed a disturbing obsession with everything related to ancient Greece. It was not childish curiosity but something deeper, almost desperate, as if he were trying to recall something vital he had forgotten. Every morning, the child woke up asking for his papyri. Maria and her husband Kostas did not know what to do. Their son rejected toys typical for his age and spent hours contemplating Greek philosophy books borrowed from the local library. But what was most unsettling was that he did not read them like a child learning. He examined them as if checking whether the content was correct. "This is wrong," Nicholas murmured one day, pointing to a translation of Plato. "The words about the world of ideas are altered. My master never said it that way." His parents exchanged worried glances. What master? What was their son talking about? The situation reached a critical point in July 1987, when Nicholas began having nightmares, not the typical dreams of a child. He would wake up screaming phrases in ancient Greek about the approaching fire and the need to save the sacred texts. One night, Maria found him drawing detailed maps of places he was not supposed to have ever seen. "I must go home," Nicholas told his mother, pointing to one of his drawings. "The oracle awaits me. The texts are there, beneath the sacred stones." The drawing was incredibly detailed, showing the sanctuary at Delphi with architectural precision. Professor Komnos, who had become a frequent visitor to the family, immediately recognized the map's accuracy. "This child has drawn the exact layout of the Temple of Apollo," he explained to the parents with a trembling voice. He even marked underground chambers discovered by archaeologists just 2 years ago. The decision was inevitable. Despite their fears, Maria and Kostas agreed to take Nicholas to Delphi. The 3-hour car journey was tense. The child remained silent, but his eyes shone with an intensity that gave chills. When they finally arrived at the archaeological site on the 23rd of August 1977, Nicholas leapt from the car before his parents could stop him. He went straight to the temple ruins, knelt, and kissed the ancient stones, murmuring, "Finally home." The eyes of everyone present filled with tears, but what was to be discovered would surpass all expectations. On the morning of the 24th of August, as the sun rose over the ruins of Delphi, Nicholas did something that changed everything. He walked directly to a section of the temple, cordoned off by archaeologists, and stopped before a seemingly ordinary stone. "Here," he said simply, striking the ground with his small foot, exactly 2.3 meters deep. Dr. Andreas Michaelopoulos, the site's chief archaeologist, observed the scene with skepticism. But when Nicholas began tracing symbols in the earth with his fingers, symbols that exactly matched Pythagorean inscriptions from the 6th century before Christ, his expression changed completely. "I need the Herculaneum scrolls," Nicholas said with an authority that chilled the blood. "The ones found last year in the secret excavation. My master wrote them before the fire reached the library." The silence was absolute. The Herculaneum scrolls were one of the most confidential discoveries in modern archaeology, found in 1986 during a classified excavation, with only 5 people worldwide having access to them. Nicholas could not have known of their existence. 3 hours later, Professor Komnos arrived from Athens with a metal case. Inside were high-resolution photographs of the scrolls, text so ancient and damaged that the best papyrologists needed weeks to decipher just a few lines. When they showed Nicholas the first image, the child looked at it for barely 10 seconds before beginning to translate with perfect fluency. "The soul is an eternal fire that migrates between bodies in search of perfection. He who understands the sacred numbers will find the way back to the origin. The initiates must protect this knowledge until the moment of revelation." Professor Commonose's eyes filled with tears. That translation had taken his team of experts 3 full months of work, and a 4-year-old child had done it in seconds, word for word, with a precision surpassing even the best academic translations. But the most disturbing part came next. Nicholas pointed to a section of the scroll that appeared completely deteriorated and said, "Something important is missing here. The rest of the text is buried where I told you, exactly 2.3 meters beneath the sacred stone." The excavation began that same afternoon, and what they found defied all known logic. At 18:30 on the 25th of August 1987, in an improvised tent near the excavation site, the most extraordinary session ever documented in the history of modern archaeology took place. Dr. Stavros had brought professional recording equipment from Athens, while 3 video cameras captured every moment from different angles. Present in the tent were Professor Komnos, Dr. Michaelopoulos, Dr. Tefakara, Sophia Evangelou, a specialist in ancient Greek dialects from the University of Oxford, and Dr. Marcus Weber, a German papyrologist considered the world's foremost authority on Pythagorean texts. Nicholas, seated on a chair too large for him, his small feet dangling, observed the freshly unearthed scrolls with an unsettling calm. The texts were so deteriorated that, even under a microscope, they were almost illegible. But when they brought the first fragment closer to him, something extraordinary happened. The child's voice changed completely, becoming deeper, more measured, as if another person were speaking through him. "Initiate, brothers," he began in perfect archaic Greek. "I write these lines as the fire approaches our school. Pythagoras has gone to the ether, but his teachings must endure. The sacred numbers reveal that the soul will return in cycles of 2,160 solar years." Dr. Weber, who had dedicated 30 years of his life to studying Pythagorean texts, began to tremble visibly. "Impossible," he murmured in German. "He is quoting the secret Tetractes, a text believed to be lost forever." But the most chilling moment came next. In the recording, still preserved in the archives of the University of Athens, a second voice can be clearly heard whispering in the background. An adult, deep voice, seemingly dictating the words Nicholas speaks. Yet, in the tent, there were only adults, speechless with astonishment. "Do you hear that?" Dr. Evangelou asked, turning toward the speakers. "There's another voice. But there's no one else here." A later analysis of the recording revealed something that froze the blood. The second voice bore phonetic characteristics of Greek spoken in the 6th century before Christ, a pronunciation no modern speaker could replicate with such precision. Nicholas continued translating for 47 minutes without interruption. Every word, every pause, every inflection was perfect. And when he finished, he simply closed his eyes and whispered, "My master says this is enough for today." But the most shocking revelation was still to come. At dawn on the 26th of August, Nicholas woke his parents with a statement that would change the course of Greek archaeology forever. "I must go where my master hid the last texts," he announced with a determination that gave chills. 847 meters northeast of the oracle, at a depth of 4.2 meters, there is a sealed chamber with 23 intact scrolls. The numbers were so precise they were unsettling. How could a 4-year-old child provide such exact coordinates? Dr. Michaelopoulos decided to take the indication seriously. Using ground-penetrating radar brought from Athens, the team went exactly to the spot Nicholas had indicated. What they found surpassed all expectations. Exactly 847 meters northeast of the Temple of Apollo, the sensors detected an underground anomaly, a perfectly rectangular cavity at a depth of 4.2 meters, exactly where Nicholas had said. The excavation began immediately. For 18 consecutive hours, the team of archaeologists worked tirelessly under Nicholas's direct supervision, who directed the operations with an authority that chilled the blood. "Be more careful with the stones on the left," he warned. "That's where the sealed entrance is." At 14:15 on the 27th of August, the tools struck something solid. It was a marble slab bearing Pythagorean inscriptions that sealed an underground chamber. When they finally managed to move the stone, what they saw inside left them speechless. 23 rolled scrolls, perfectly preserved, arranged in a circle around a bronze statue depicting a man in a tunic with a beard. The statue bore an inscription at its base, Philolaos o Crotonatus. Philolaus of Croton, one of Pythagoras's most important disciples. "That's me," Nicholas whispered upon seeing the statue. "My body from then." Dr. Weber, who had remained skeptical until that moment, fell to his knees. The scrolls contained mathematical and philosophical texts that would revolutionize the understanding of the Pythagorean school. Geometric formulas that were 2,000 years ahead of their time, theories on reincarnation explaining phenomena that modern science was only beginning to understand. But scroll number 23, the last in the circle, contained something that made everyone present question everything they thought they knew about reality. A text that began with the words, "To the one who will return in the year 1987 of the Christian era, these are the instructions to fulfill the mission." The prophecy had found its recipient, but what was to be revealed would surpass all boundaries of the believable. Scroll number 23 was unrolled with extreme care at 1645 on the 27th of August. Its contents changed the lives of everyone present forever, especially Professor Komnenos. The text, written in archaic Greek with impeccable calligraphy, read, "To Demetres, my beloved disciple, who will return with the knowledge of the future. You will recognize these words, for your soul wrote them. In the next life, you will be a professor of ancient texts, but your true purpose will be to guide the child who carries my essence. The circle must be closed before the winter solstice." Professor Komnenos began to tremble uncontrollably. His first name was Demetres, a detail Nicholas had never known, as everyone simply called him Professor. But there was more. The scroll continued with intimate details of Komnenos's life that no one else could know, the scar on his left hand, his secret fear of heights, even the name of his first childhood love. "How?" Komnenos murmured, tears streaming down his cheeks. "How can this text know all this?" Nicholas slowly approached the professor and, with heartbreaking tenderness, placed his small hand on the man's face. "Because you were my best friend, Demetres," he said in a gentle voice. "In that life, you wrote down everything I dictated. Together, we preserved the sacred knowledge. When the fire destroyed our school, Komnenos's tears intensified. At that moment, fragments of recurring dreams he had had throughout his life made sense. Visions of an ancient library, burning scrolls, a white-bearded master dictating texts as the flames approached. "I always knew there was something more," the professor whispered. "Since childhood, I felt drawn to these texts as if they were familiar." Dr. Weber, a silent witness to this exchange, recorded every word on his tape recorder. Years later, he would declare it the most moving and unsettling moment of his scientific career. "I witnessed something that defies all rational explanation," he wrote in his personal journal. "A reunion of souls separated by over 2,500 years." But the scroll contained even more revelations. In its final section, it described the location of two other secret chambers, one in Croton, Italy, and another in Alexandria, Egypt. Both contained texts that, according to the manuscript, would change humanity's understanding of the nature of the soul and its eternal purpose. Nicholas's mission was just beginning, but he first had to complete his task in Delphi. The final days of August 1987 in Delphi witnessed revelations that forever changed the Western understanding of reincarnation and the purpose of the human soul. Nicholas, guided by knowledge that defied all logic, led the team to a third secret chamber located directly beneath the omphalos, the sacred center of the ancient world. At 6.8 meters deep, exactly where the child had indicated, they found what archaeologists would consider the most significant discovery of the 20th century, Pythagoras's personal library, intact after more than 2,500 years. 73 rolled scrolls contain the deepest secrets of the Pythagorean school, texts on the transmigration of the soul describing with scientific precision phenomena that quantum physics was only beginning to explore in 1987, mathematical formulas demonstrating the connection between consciousness and the structure of the universe, detailed maps of other ancient civilizations possessing similar knowledge. But the central scroll, the longest and most elaborate, contained the doctrine of eternal return, a text explaining how certain advanced souls returned at critical moments in history to preserve and transmit sacred knowledge. According to this document, Nicholas was not the first reincarnation of Philolaus. He had returned before as a scribe in Alexandria during the burning of the library, as a copying monk in the Middle Ages, as a Renaissance scholar. "The soul of knowledge does not rest," Nicholas translated in a serene voice. "It returns each time humanity risks losing essential wisdom. This present life is crucial, for the human species is approaching a point of no return. The sacred texts must be revealed before it is too late." Dr. Michaelopoulos, who had documented every moment, felt a shiver as he grasped the magnitude of what they had discovered. This was not just archaeology, it was a cosmic mission that had waited millennia to be fulfilled. The scrolls also revealed the exact locations of 12 secret libraries scattered across the world, from Machu Picchu to the Giza Plateau, from Tibetan monasteries to underwater ruins in the Mediterranean. Each contained pieces of a universal knowledge that, according to Pythagorean doctrine, could elevate human consciousness to levels never reached before. Nicholas closed his eyes and sighed deeply. "My work here is done," he announced. "But the true mission is only beginning. Humanity has 33 years to find and protect this knowledge." Then his voice fell silent, but the implication was clear: the clock had begun ticking. On the 3rd of September 1987, exactly 1 week after the last discovery, something extraordinary happened. Nicholas woke up as a normal 4-year-old child again. The impossible knowledge had vanished. He no longer spoke archaic Greek and could no longer translate ancient texts. It was as if the mission had ended, and the ancient soul had withdrawn, allowing the child to live a normal life. But the impact of what had happened extended far beyond the Christopoulos family. The discovered scrolls revolutionized the academic world. The most prestigious universities in Europe launched secret expeditions to the 12 locations mentioned in the texts. By 1990, they had already confirmed the existence of sealed chambers in 8 of the 12 indicated sites. However, a disturbing phenomenon emerged, which researchers called the Delphi syndrome. Since 1988, more than 200 children worldwide began displaying impossible knowledge about ancient civilizations. A 6-year-old boy in Peru speaking archaic Quechua and drawing precise maps of Machu Picchu, a 5-year-old girl in Egypt translating hieroglyphs with perfect fluency, a 7-year-old boy in India reciting lost Sanskrit texts from millennia ago. All had something in common: they had suffered some form of trauma or accident before developing their extraordinary abilities, and all, without exception, mentioned the same deadline, the year 2020. Dr. Kumnos, who dedicated the rest of his life to studying this phenomenon, wrote in his final academic paper, "We are not dealing with isolated cases of reincarnation. We are witnessing a massive activation of ancient souls returning with a specific mission. The countdown to something transcendental has begun." Nicholas Christopoulos grew up to become an ordinary architect, with no conscious memories of what had happened. But every 23rd of August, the anniversary of his first visit to Delphi, he experiences vivid dreams in which an ancient voice whispers to him, "The mission continues." The complete archives of the Christopoulos case remain classified in the basements of the University of Athens, but the expeditions to the secret libraries continue. To date, more than 3,000 ancient texts have been recovered, challenging everything we thought we knew about our past. Is it possible that the human soul transcends death to fulfill purposes that go beyond a single existence? And what does that deadline mentioned by so many children truly mean? If you know of a case similar to Nicholas's or have witnessed events that defy scientific explanation, share them in the comments, for perhaps, just perhaps, these events are not isolated but part of something much larger that is about to be revealed.